Good video audio.
What I like to hear.
Alright, the chamber pressure looks good.
Following up.
All right, everybody out there on YouTube, let me know that this is working. I hear myself, which is a good sign. Let me go ahead and mute that. You should not hear me twice. You should only hear me once, but we are standing by for a launch of Starlink, the Starlink 7. We're just calling it Starlink Launch 7. Just roll with that. Let me know that you can hear me just fine. I'm John Galloway. If you watch my Twitch stream, you know me as DOS. I'll be your studio host today for the live stream. Y'all don't need to listen much to me because we've also got Chris Gebhardt out at the Cape practicing social distancing today, but bringing us live video, which we're about to see how this video is looking. Let's see if we've got Chris's camera. That looks like a camera to me. That looks like what we need from Cape Canaveral. So this is going to be a big test. This is going to be a massive test. Chris, we're using a new setup here. Chris, how are things going today out at Cape Canaveral?
Well, good afternoon. And as you can see, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous late April day here at the Kennedy Space Center. We've got the countdown clock over on our right with the vertical integration facility of the Atlas V photobombing in the background. We have the flagpole, and then just to the left of that, we have the star of our show today. There it is on launch pad 39A, getting ready for liftoff at 3:30 this afternoon Eastern, which is 7:30 or 19:30 UTC. They actually brought the launch time, the preferred launch time, forward into the window a little bit. Still the same window. They didn't move the launch window. They just moved a little bit early into the window for optimization of everything for this particular mission and flight. And everything right now, to our knowledge, is going good. I'm going to step back for just a minute because we got to practice social distancing. But I'm going to let Julia talk about the trip to the launch pad this morning. To see the rocket with the satellite, how SpaceX and NASA worked with us to ensure that we would still get a photo opportunity and B-roll opportunity. Before I do that, I wanted to say thank you very much for joining us. I'm Chris Gebhardt, the Assistant Managing Editor of NASA Spaceflight. You are, of course, looking live at the Falcon 9 rocket on Launch Complex 39A. As it gets ready for the launch of 60 new Starling satellites in about 50 minutes from now. But Julia, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let you take over. And while Julia's talking, if you've got any questions, go ahead and put them, go ahead and ask them to us in the chat here. And we've got people behind the scenes sending them on over to us. So we will go ahead and get all of those answered online. But Julia, how did it go this morning?
Well, good. This is Julia, one of the photographers and correspondents for NASA Spaceflight. It was an interesting morning, something we're not used to seeing. Normally we may take one of the NASA buses that we'd see that on the tour, but you can't really social distance and allow media on a situation like that. So we did caravan singularly, so it was a long caravan that was taken out by the KSC police, and we actually did all of our remote setups in groups of 10 to allow for social distancing. So once a group of 10 had their 15 minutes at each of the 3 locations, then the next group came on in behind them and took their turn. So we had a chance to do a little bit of B-roll footage sitting at our cars while we waited our turn. And this might be a preview of what Demo Mission 2 just might look like. On my way in, I traversed down US 1, and there are a lot of people who have been quarantined, right? Or perhaps practicing social distancing while they're working at home. And they are indeed coming out for launch today. And it looks like they're lining up to maximize the amount of cars you can get in an area, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to social distance if we all get out of our cars. Today we are fortunate because we are at the press site at Kennedy Space Center, which has a nice massive lawn to give us space and allow us to social distance. Chris and I can do some dancing behind the camera to enable this, so we'll both try and answer your questions. You may have seen a video I did this last week here on YouTube talking about the fleet, so if you have more of those questions, go ahead and bring those to the table as well.
Those are awesome Julia questions.
Yeah, maybe those are a little bit meat questions. And by the way, the launch day cookies did come back for this mission, so if there's anybody in media watching and you want to come and get one of those, there's going to be a basket out behind us.
A social distancing basket of cookies.
That is right, a social distancing basket of cookies with a rocket on it even.
There we go.
All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris.
All right. Well, as you can imagine, there were some questions earlier on, about a month ago when we were here for the last or for the previous Starlink mission. There were some questions about exactly what would be able to occur during the coronavirus shutdowns and social distancing and everything like that. But we felt it's very important to help people understand what SpaceX and what NASA and what the 45th Space Wing are doing as these launches continue, to enable us to still be here in some capacity, even if it's not our full capacity, or the full capacity of the media outlets allowed on site. They're still allowing us here to cover these missions for you and to bring you live updates and to answer all of your questions. So again, if you've got any questions about Starlink in general, the Falcon 9, the upcoming crew flight to the International Space Station next month, if you've got questions about the SpaceX fleet, like the drone ships or the fairing catcher vehicles, those are great for Julia as well. But one big news thing that we have to start off with right off the bat is that with a liftoff of this mission, the Falcon 9 will take over from the Atlas V as the most flown actively flying rocket in the US fleet. Right now, both rockets are at 83 flights apiece, and with this one, this will be the 84th of the Falcon 9. It will be the 92nd overall orbital launch attempt for SpaceX, counting their 5 Falcon 1 missions and their 3 Falcon Heavy flights as well. So SpaceX very much on track to reach its 100th orbital launch this year, if they can maintain a pretty good cadence, which they're continuing to do. And it is statistically possible, Julie, I did the math on this, if you only take one flight in April and you assume 2 flights of the Falcon 9 May through December, they could end with exactly 100 Falcon 9 missions, or 100 Falcon 9 flights, the 100th Falcon 9 this year, if they can keep to 2 a month from May on. So, not statistically impossible. We'll see where they end up with that. With the SpaceX cadence, that's certainly a possibility, but with crew coming as well. The near-term manifest for SpaceX actually involves this one today, the 7th flight of Starlink, next month in May, no earlier than the 16th of May, the 8th flight of Starlink from Pad 40, which is over on the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station side. And then earlier than May 27th, back over here to the Kennedy Space Center, to the launch pad you're looking at now, where Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley will board a Crew Dragon and launch to the International Space Station no earlier than 4:32 p.m. on May 27th.
And I am so excited for that. I did not live here during shuttle. I never had the honor of seeing a shuttle launch, so this will be the first time I get to see humans launching from Cape Canaveral in our Crew Dragon. That's just gonna be amazing. So I'm going to be covering that mission off-site, which is kind of exciting for me because I have some shots in mind of getting some crowd reaction, maybe even what that might look like in our current social state, but a little bit of a throwback to Shuttle and Apollo. So I am super excited to see what we can bring you as a team, and hopefully some of them will be on site, maybe even streaming, but we'll also have a nice healthy crew off site to bring additional coverage.
And of course, that's the big story with SpaceX leading up to the May flight of Crew. But again, we are here for Starlink, and specifically the 7th flight of Starlink satellites up into orbit. Overall, this will make, counting today's batch of 60, it will be 422 satellites that have been launched as part of the Starlink constellation. Right now, there are 362 satellites that have been launched and 359 in orbit. So 3 of them have deorbited at this point, but the vast majority of them are still up there, including the original 2 Tintin satellites, Tintin A and Tintin B, which launched as part of a ride-along effort from SpaceX on a Spanish satellite launch back in February of 2018. Those 2 satellites have been slowly lowering their orbits, and Elon Musk confirmed today that they will be deorbited here in the coming weeks or months, but that is the goal. So with this mission, 422 SpaceX Starlink satellites will be in orbit. And if you have any questions about them, about the booster that we're using today, about the payload fairings that we're using, the booster and the payload fairings are both flight proven reuses from previous missions. If you've got questions about the fleet, go ahead and ask that. And Julia, I actually think before we get into the business end of the countdown, we've got about 12 minutes before they start fueling and everything. Do you want to talk a little bit about the fleet and just what it's like down in port? You know, what it's like on one of these voyages out to the great open ocean to catch a booster and bring it back.
Well, I can only imagine what it is like, but I can tell you a little bit about what we see in Port Canaveral. There's something going on every day there. So we had the fleet leave Sunday morning, and it didn't take them too long. They actually got there last night to the landing zone, which is, they are about 630 kilometers east of Charleston, South Carolina. So right now the drone ship has been detached from the tug. The tug, this mission is Finn Falgot. Hawk is actually currently out doing some tender work in the southern area of Florida. So we've got a guest tug. Osley is in place. The fairing catchers Go Miss Chief and Go Miss Tree, they are also in place, and they are a little bit farther northeast, which is about 695 kilometers offshore from here. We've got a little bit more going on in Port Canaveral as well. We've got Just Read the Instructions, which is the drone ship that was formerly used on the West Coast recoveries. Now, they have made the voyage over here, and it's been a long time coming, but no, we are now seeing some very active movement on there. There are 4 new thrusters, and they are actually installed into massive pods that are now where the little blue azimuth thrusters used to be. And what's really exciting about that is it's going to have a little bit different profile than, of course, I Still Love You. It has large containers that will operate these thrusters. And right now it actually looks like a small building on either end of Just Read the Instructions. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on in Port Canaveral. Otherwise, hopefully today we will be seeing a booster land on, of course, I Still Love You. On that note, you only have a little bit of time left to join Landing Bingo on the NASA Spaceflight forums. Hopefully you've seen that tweet. If not, hopefully Control Team can get a link up for you. We haven't had a booster land in the last couple of missions, so I have been lacking some time in port to actually see one and bring that to you up close. Of note though, the last return I saw of this booster was actually from Starlink 4, and that was back in February. So this has actually been a pretty quick turnaround for this booster, and that was its 3rd mission. So hopefully we'll see it land, and we'll be able to maybe use it again and see what happens with that 5th flight.
I actually did the math on this yesterday.
Okay, tell me the math.
Because this booster last flew on the 29th of January.
Correct.
Which, based on conception of time passage so far this year, seems like last week.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's not even close to the record. Actually, the record holder is in the 60-day period. This is closer to the 90-day period because it was late January
to late April. So
It
80
just
80 some odd
feels
days
like
for this
it
one,
then.
but yeah.
It's that close up on my camera roll as far as return to ports go.
Yeah.
I didn't have much to show you all last couple times we had return to port.
I know, rare that we've talked more about return to launch site landings.
Yeah, but hey, let's talk about those fairing catchers. So you've heard me call them Mystery and Mischief. That would also be known as Go Mischief and Go Mistree. The fairings we are looking at right now, as you saw from pictures I posted this morning, they are blank fairings. They are recovered fairings. Go Mistree actually captured one of these fairing halves during Amos 17, and the other one unfortunately was not caught, but did land gently enough in the ocean to be recovered by Go Mischief and fished out. So here we are with a booster that we have 2 recovered fairing halves and has flown 3 times. So it's going to be interesting to see what we have coming back to port in just a few days.
Cool. All right, and as we head toward the start of fueling here in just a couple minutes, I see some questions coming in, which we'll definitely get to in a minute. But Doss, real quick, I wanted to throw it back to you because you've got some sharing to do.
It's true. Let's see here, and we're mixing audio on the fly, but I am still back here in the studio. We have the live feed from Chris Gebhardt and Julia out there at the Cape. Let me know that y'all can hear me. Y'all should be able to hear me. But I want to do this really quickly while they get a couple camera things situated. All these super chats coming in. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Pal 9021, Ease. We got Jared Yak with $5. Friday Ray, $2. Pete Martian, 3 Canadian. Looks like Joe Deplorable. John Wan, $10 from John Mowan. I don't know how to say your name, but I apologize. Rock on, NASA Spaceflight. Thanks for the coverage. We got Urban Spaceman. Oh, these are memberships, actually. These are people joining the YouTube channel, it looks like. So welcome to the red team there, SpaceX Man. We got Matt B, welcome to the red team. We got Giovanni Pagliari, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Giovanni there. Welcome to Pad Rat level, Mr. Showtime, $5 to infinity and beyond. Hendrik Guritzen, welcome to Capcom. That's a Capcom level there, Hendrik, thank you so much. And then Yol, welcome to the red team there, Yol. Levi Shin just did launch director as well, so this is a new thing over here. If you're watching on the NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel, this is a new thing. They did get enough, or I guess we got enough people that you can actually become a member of the channel right now, which is a monthly sort of pay thing to help us support these sorts of live streams. And if you're watching over on Twitch right now, which we're also on Twitch, I mean, thank you all for everything you do in the first place. But Chris, back over to you. I just wanted to pop that over real quick and say thanks to everybody for all the support.
And thank you. I want to reiterate that thanks because, we love doing it. It's our passion to come out here and bring you these launches and get all the gear and constantly stay on top and keep bettering ourselves. But it is support from folks like you that make that possible in part. So we really, really do appreciate it, especially the myriad ways that you can support the channel or us directly. So we are about 30 seconds away or so from the commencement of fueling operations, which will answer our first question, which comes from Dead Meat 1471. What propellant is used for this launch? So both the Falcon 9 first stage and second stage use kerosene and densified liquid oxygen as their propellant and oxidizer. And then the 60 Starling satellites use Hal effect thrusters to maneuver and scoot along in orbit and do their orbit raising and their plane changings and all of that. But for the rocket, it is liquid hydrogen. It is densified liquid oxygen and kerosene, rocket grade kerosene to be exact. So let's roll through some of the questions that we've got here. So 712 Interactive wants to know, what is the structure coming out of the side of the 39A tower? Okay, if you mean, okay, so I assume you're talking about the structures that are toward the left-hand side of the screen here. There's a white-ish structure that looks like it's on the ground, and then there is a whitish ball structure up on right legs. So if you're talking about the big ball structure that's up on legs that appears to be coming out of the side of the tower, that's actually the water tower. It's a camera placement illusion that makes it look like it's coming out of the tower, and also a camera placement illusion that makes it look like roughly the same size as the tower at 39A. It is smaller in height than the tower, and it is farther behind, but inside the fencing and the gates of the pad, and everything like that. If you are talking about the building, that is another optical illusion based on camera placement. There are various buildings between here and the launch pad, maintenance, supplies, things like that, and you're just happening to see one of those buildings as well. So if either of those two things are not the thing you were talking about in terms of what's coming out of the side of the tower, please let me know and we'll get it answered.
The Crew Dragon access arm, maybe?
Can you see that really clearly? I guess you can, yeah. I mean, up toward the top of the tower, sort of retracted against it, is the crew access arm that would extend out to go to Crew Dragon, and will next month for the crew flights. Perfect. So where you can see right now where we are at the press site looking outward toward 39A, so we're 3 miles or 5 kilometers from that launch pad. So there's quite a bit of structure in between us that's still outside of that danger area for 39A launches that are still open for business, but that are just regular buildings here on NASA property. Oh, Julia, hey, question for Julia. Elon hinted a new drone ship is being constructed a few months ago. Any updates?
Well, y'all, your guess is as good as mine. So I thought maybe Just Read the Instructions would be renamed, but I don't think so. I think we are still looking at Just Read the Instructions, which means there's still a third drone ship, maybe. I don't know. What does it look like? Does it look like a barge with wings? Does it look like a Blue Origin style ro-ro cargo ship? That has yet to be seen. I have yet to find it. I don't even know where to look at this point. So, hey, spaceflight community, join in on the forums and start doing some research, and let's teamwork that, because I honestly couldn't tell you what it looks like just yet.
Always fun when you know there's going to be something, but it'll look different. That's all we really know.
That's all we know,
right?
It's a needle in a haystack.
Is that it'll look different. Yeah, so some other questions here from Quantum Spin. How many Falcon 9s does SpaceX currently have in stock? There are a few Block 5 boosters that are still left. We know they've got new ones coming down the line for Demo 2, for GPS, for a few of their other missions slated for the summer manifest, have some new boosters as well as a mix of reuse as well. They have lost 2, well, they have lost 3 this year, the in-flight abort booster and Starlink 5 and Starlink 6. They both lost as well. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many that leaves in inventory in terms of how many total they have completed. But it's a good question. Michael or Das, if one of you could track that down in the background, we could get that answer, at least for how many that we know have come through McGregor. We'll get that answered for you there, Quantum Spin. Oh, we have the answer. So there are 2 active Block 5 Falcon 9 single sticks, plus the 2 Falcon Heavy side cores, which are essentially Falcon 9s that they just have to stick the... Oh, so 3 active Falcon 9s plus the 2 sides, so 5. So they have 5 Block 5 Falcon 9s that have already flown. And then they've got a handful of new boosters coming in, so they're doing good. I mean, it's not like they're running out by any means, but I would greatly assume that a successful landing and recovery today would be a sigh of relief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't it a little bit harder, Chris, to actually manipulate those side cores into a booster that would be able to launch something like Starlink?
So it's a good question. The last we had heard of it is that no, the side cores were pretty easily interchangeable. It was the center core that they can't just take a Falcon 9 and make it a Falcon Heavy center core, but they can take a Falcon 9 and make it a side booster, take a side booster and make it a Falcon 9. Now that was the last we heard. If something has changed on that, it has been a while since we've gotten an update on exactly how that interchangeability works.
One top off and put an inner.
But of course, we know the next Falcon Heavy, at least right now, that's been announced, is not until at the earliest the end of the year, most likely at this point next year, just with everything going on. But anyway, Quantum Sin, that answers your question. There are 5 single-stick Falcon 9s left. 3 that have always flown as Falcon 9s, and 2 that have flown as the side core boosters for Arabsat and STP-2 Falcon Heavy missions last year. And thanks, Michael, for everything there. And thank Michael for that answer. He was the one who tracked that down for us on air. So Pete Martin wants to know, do low-level winds count as much as upper-level winds? Excellent question. There are more strict ground-level takeoff winds, liftoff winds is what they're known as, than there is strictness in terms of the upper-level winds. And that has a lot to do with, until the rocket really gets up to speed, if it gets hit with wind, the slower it's going and the heavier it is, the more it can drift on its pad. So you have liftoff winds, and the liftoff winds actually aren't the same. They depend on the direction that the wind is actually coming from, because you can tolerate a higher ground wind or surface wind if that wind is pushing you away from a tower or a launch pad structure than if that wind were pushing you toward it. So ground winds are actually more stringent than upper level winds in this case. But the good thing about today is that we don't have to worry about it. There's a 90% chance of acceptable weather. I mean, at this point, ground weather, it's pretty much 100%. At this point, there was a very low risk of recovery weather interfering with recovery, very low risk of upper level wind shear. So upper level winds were looking good after the passage of our front earlier in the week. And of course, we advanced by a day. We were supposed to be here tomorrow covering this launch, but they pulled it forward by a day because we do have another weather system moving in, another frontal system coming in to us, and they wanted to take advantage of the good weather today to launch. So a very rare moment of pulling a launch forward by a week, or forward by a day, a week or so before liftoff. Not the only time that has happened, though. They managed the feat at least once in the shuttle program when they pulled the final Hubble mission forward by a day, about a week before liftoff. So not impossible, but very, very rare to see that. And everything like that. So at this point, we are 27 minutes away from or 26 minutes away from our planned liftoff of the Falcon 9 here from Launch Complex 39A. The launch time is targeted for 15:30 local time here at the Kennedy Space Center, which is 19:30 Universal Coordinated Time. 422 Starling satellites by the time this mission is done will have been placed in orbit, 60 on 7 operational flights, and the 2 Tintin Starlings that were launched back in 2018, which really helped to prove out the systems and test the ground equipment and the communication abilities of the Tintins as well. And of course, Elon sent that famous, "It worked!" Wow, it worked! Tweet through the Tintin satellites, and then the Starlink constellation as well, also being tested to prove its military use and ability as well, which actually brings us to part of the reason why we are launching today, is that Starlink has an interesting relationship with national security and the military, in that the military is quite interested in partially using it, as they are with a lot of satellite and space-based technology. And because Starlink is sort of at a critical fledgling point where they need to continue to build it out, to continue to test it, with everything, Starlink kind of got a pass where you saw other military satellites that maybe you wouldn't have actually thought, like, wow, that'll never be grounded, that'll keep going,
Right,
like the
GPS.
GPS satellite that got delayed. But as it turns out, the difference here is that we're building the Starlink constellation, so its capabilities keep improving with each batch of satellites you launch, and that's what the military needs. It needs to build up that to finish all the testing that they really want to do with it and use the system the way they do. GPS network is fine. We're upgrading. We're not, oh my gosh, something failed, we have to get it up there to replace it. The GPS network is actually really stable, and we didn't need the third third GPS-3 satellite to be launched during this pandemic, so they didn't. But Starlink is allowed to continue to launch because it is technically for national security.
Exactly.
Yep. Same reason that, and it's that same principle that's going to apply for the crew flight next month with SpaceX and with Demo 2. Anything that is deemed critical to national security or the defense of the nation is allowed to keep launching, and anything that is for the safety, protection, and preservation of the International Space Station is allowed to continue launching. So this is why cargo mission, this is why 2 days from now, there's a Russian progress up to the International Space Station, and then in May we have both a Japan automated transfer vehicle going up with cargo, and then Demo 2 going up as well. But this is also why Soyuz MS-16 was allowed to launch and everything like that.
That is correct. So basically we're looking at assuring America's access to space, and in this case it would be the International Space Station with that upcoming launch and all of the supplies to ensure the safety of our astronauts, and keep those science missions going as well, because not only do we have our astronauts up there, but those science missions do impact us here on Earth, and making sure that the money invested in those experiments does make it back down when we are capable of bringing supplies and science back down to Earth. So we do have that going on. I do believe we also recently had or are having some test runs using the Starlink satellites here in Florida from one of our Air Force bases. Unfortunately, I do not have the article pulled up, but that is one of the things that was so important about continuing to build the constellation, was because there are current ops in the works to link up and see what that looks like with the state of the constellation now, which may impact future maybe some future capabilities of the satellites as they continue to launch the constellation.
Indeed, indeed. All right, let's see what other questions we've got here. So James Brown wants to know, where did the fire and recovery vessel... Oh, did you answer this already? How did the fairing catcher vessels get their names?
The name of the book, they're actually a comic book.
Okay.
Mystery.
Right.
It actually is the name, right? It's like a spy novel, kind of.
There you go. They're spy novels.
Yeah, it's like
I don't actually know the story behind how they got their names. I thought they were just. I thought they were just cool.
No, it's actually like one of those.
It's a mystery.
Film noir type crime fighter chick comic books.
All right.
So you've got Mystery or Mystery and Mischief.
And Mischief. There you go. There you go. See, even you learn something every day.
Oh,
it's awesome.
Now I'm gonna find that comic book cover for you.
All right, and Gary Gardner wants to know what happens to the second stage. It burns up. The second stage re-enters and burns up in the atmosphere and is disposed of. Yes, it's the only part of the Falcon 9 that is not reused. And okay, so Time Walker also wanted to know, will they capture the booster or the fairings of this particular mission? Yes. The autonomous spaceport drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, is about 630 kilometers downrange off South Carolina. There's our big T-minus 20-minute vent of gaseous oxygen, indicating a nice visual indication that all is on track for our liftoff in 20 minutes from now. But anyway, that's where the the drone ship will be to catch the booster, and the fairing catcher vessels. I think the pre-mission thing I saw was 730 kilometers northeast of here, but Julia, you said a different number.
695.
695 for this mission. So 630 and 695 is how far downrange they will be to catch the booster and then to catch the fairings.
And now that's their starting point at 695.
Yes.
That's just where they are right now. They're going to have to wait for those fairings to release, and then it's go time for them. So one thing you may see on tracking on marine traffic is actually their destination will change, and it'll say it's catch time. So they'll start at 695 kilometers, but they can go up to about 21 knots per hour with those fast boats, and they'll follow the signal, chase the fairing, and hopefully we will actually see our first double catch today. That's what I'm hoping for.
But of course, if they should not be able to get directly under the fairings to catch them in the net, the fairings can splash down very safely and calmly in the Atlantic and be fished out for reuse. One half of today's fairing was caught by mystery, and the other half splashed down into the Atlantic. Both halves are being reused today. So there you go. Another question here from Skylaws. Can SpaceX use the Draco thrusters as a backup landing option in case of a parachute failure on Crew Dragon? Ooh. Okay, so some things with Crew Dragon. So Crew Dragon was originally supposed to do a retro-propulsive landing and have 4 little legs that would come out of it, and it would land just like the Falcon 9 rockets do. NASA was, shall we say, unamused by that idea and thought it was too risky. Of course, that was proposed before the Falcon 9s were landing regularly, but of course we've seen landing anomalies with the Falcon 9. So, NASA wanted to go with the parachute system because it's much more reliable than retropropulsion when those design decisions really needed to be made. I know they have said, I believe they said after DM1 that it was theoretically possible that you could use the Super Dracos to slow down and land if you ended up with a parachute issue, but I don't think they went any further than that, and I have not heard anything from NASA or SpaceX that is a certified emergency backup to if the parachutes should fail. But yes, it's about right. So there's that. And Jane wants to know, does SpaceX manufacture its user terminals itself as it manufactures its own satellites? So the Starlink user terminals, are they manufactured in-house or are they manufactured elsewhere? I mean, a lot of Elon's companies are all in-house. I mean, the Falcon 9 is built all in-house. Teslas are built. Teslas are built by Tesla. I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, just given the other companies in orbit here. Unintentional pun. Yes, you get bad dad puns when you're with me. That one wasn't even a bad dad pun. It was just bad and unintentional. But anyway, it wouldn't surprise me if they are, just given how all of these companies seem to work, but I don't know for certain. So we'll try to find you that answer. But that's all we have right now. So let's get a quick technical update because we are at T-minus 16 minutes and counting. So right now, since T-minus 35 minutes, densified liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene have both been flowing into the first stage of Falcon 9. At the same time, only RP1 kerosene was flowing into the second stage. That kerosene load has now ended and gone into stable replenish, and Falcon 9's second stage is now being fueled with densified liquid oxygen. They have discovered over the course, over the evolution of the Falcon system, and the Falcon 9 in particular, that the most efficient way and the safest way to load the propellants is to load both of them at the same time into stage 1 and to load them one at a time, basically, into stage 2. So that is what is going on right now, that transition. Of course, you are looking live at the Falcon 9 rocket on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. That is Launch Complex 39A with the absolutely gorgeous fixed service structure tower out there and the water tower behind it. We saw Falcon 9 venting very happily a few minutes ago. We like very happy venti rockets. That means they're happy and they're going to do good things for us today. This, as Julia mentioned, this is the 4th flight of this particular Falcon 9 rocket. It first flew from this exact same launch pad 13.5 months ago when it launched the Demo 1 Crew Dragon on its uncrewed test flight up to the International Space Station. It landed on Of Course I Still Love You, was brought back to Cape Canaveral, hauled across the country. That was in March of 2019. It was then hauled across the country, where it was used in June of 2019 at Vandenberg Air Force Base for the Canadian RadarSat Constellation mission. It then landed on Just Read the Instructions, and then came back, was towed back. Wait, did it land on Just Read the Instructions, or was it RTLS?
That might have been RTLS.
It might have been RTLS. It was RTLS, yeah. The RadarSat was an RTLS to Vandenberg, so it landed RTLS at Vandenberg, its first RTLS return to launch site landing. It was then hauled back across the country here to Florida, where it was used for Starlink 4 on the 29th of January. Landed on Of Course I Still Love You, and was brought back and is now here on Pad A, where it began its journey and where it began its service. And a really cool thing that just kind of lined up, they weren't planning it. This booster was originally supposed to be for the SAOCOM-1B Polar mission, which was supposed to launch 3 weeks ago, but has been delayed indefinitely because of the pandemic. So they just took the next booster in queue, which was this one. And it became, instead of a Pad 40 launch, it became a 39A launch, and it becomes the final flight off 39A before Crew. So the first booster that launched a Crew Dragon is the last one off the pad before a Crew Dragon launches again. That's pretty cool.
That's harmony.
That's pretty cool.
I like it.
Yes, yes, indeed. All right, we have about 12.5 minutes to go, so if you've got any questions, Julia and I are here. We can answer your questions about Port Canaveral, about the fleet, about Falcon 9, about SpaceX, about anything you want here in the next 12 minutes or so as we head toward liftoff. A programming note for those of you who have not joined our live casts before and our live streams before. We are a one-stop shop in terms of what you will see today. We will track the Falcon 9 through liftoff with the camera that you are seeing this image through now, which is with me here at the press site. Once it gets far enough downrange where you can't really see it anymore from So after we lose it with my camera, I will continue to call out the events as they occur and as we're hearing them, but they might be slightly delayed on your screen because of the feed that we get from us. Will be through us here on the ground. Ryan Wilson for 747 wants to know, how do I get out to the launch clock area? You have to be media. You have to be an accredited member of the media here, either at Kennedy Space Center or the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, in order to view a launch by the countdown clock. Some NASA socials also watch from the clock, depending on how, what's the right word? Depending on how popular a launch is. Sometimes socials watch from here and the countdown clock, sometimes they watch from across. There's the big body of water here. Let me zoom out and you guys can see. So yeah, so sometimes socials will watch from this general area. Again, oh my God, there's my car going off. It's not mine this time.
Not mine.
No! Mine will be at liftoff, don't worry.
Don't mind mine.
So yeah, sometimes the socials watch here. This is the media, some of the media that is here today. Also some workers from Kennedy Space Center are present. And then you can see across the water here across the turn basin is what this is called. There are some viewing stands and galleries out over there that sometimes NASA socials watch from as well, depending on how popular a mission is. So, all right, let's get zoomed back in nice and tight to the Falcon 9 because that is the star of our show today. And another question here from Kalma. So sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name there. What was that smoke coming from the rocket? Oh, great question. That was gaseous oxygen venting away from the rocket. So as they load the densified liquid oxygen into the tanks for the Falcon 9, it boils off because you have to cool oxygen down to get it liquid. Boils off very quickly, even inside of those cryogenic tanks. So as it boils off, you have to vent it every so often to relieve all of that, get it out of the tank, right? In essence, kind of make room for more liquid oxygen that you need to load, that the gaseous oxygen is taking up the space of. So that's one of the things we see. All rockets do this when they have gaseous oxygen or liquid oxygen on board. They vent their gaseous oxygen. Some are more pronounced than others, and the Falcon 9 just happens to have a really impressive vent from it at T-minus 20 minutes and again at T-minus 2 minutes. So if you are just joining us, welcome to Kennedy Space Center. Pad 39A is what you are looking at right there with the Falcon 9 getting ready for its liftoff today on the 7th Starlink mission. Like previous Starlink flights from Florida, this one will bring 60 new internet. About 15 minutes after liftoff. So right now everything is still on track. The countdown net is amazingly quiet, which is exactly what we want to hear. A quiet countdown net for SpaceX is good. It means everything is working as it should. An interesting thing with, and that's the okay, well, that was the drone ship you were just looking at a minute ago, which is standing by about 630 kilometers northeast of here, waiting to catch the booster. It's located about 200 kilometers off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. But everything is going very well, and I say we like a quiet countdown for SpaceX because everything is automated. If you remember other rocket launches, right, you have, like, for the Atlas V, the terminal count starts at 4 minutes. That's when the Atlas takes control of the countdown. For the Space Shuttle, it was 31 seconds, right, when it took control of the countdown. For the Delta 4 rockets, it's 4 minutes as well. They take control. The Soyuzes take control about 6 or 7 minutes before liftoff. Falcon 9 takes control at 35 minutes and counting. And Falcon 9 actually and the auto sequence actually controls everything, the fueling, the pressurization, everything of that rocket. So it's been in control and fueling itself and getting everything ready to go, getting itself ready to go here for the last about 30 minutes. We're now 7 minutes away from liftoff, and engine chill down has now started. So one thing when you deal with really super cold cryogenic propellants like densified liquid oxygen and liquid kerosene is that they're very, very cold. And at engine start at T-minus 3 seconds, you can't just and what you're looking at right now is the fairing catcher. One of the fairing catchers, 690-ish kilometers downrange northeast of here, waiting to catch the fairings. So they're in position as well. Oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Engine chill down. There we go. All right. Engine chill down. So in order to prevent the engines from being shocked and cracking, exploding, freezing, right, in just dumping negative hundreds of degrees below Fahrenheit, below Celsius, these temperatures would kill an engine if you did it all at once and shock them. So we start trickling down that liquid oxygen, densified liquid oxygen, into the engines to thermally condition them for ignition, so that when that propellant starts rushing through them at T-minus 3 seconds, they're thermally conditioned. They're ready for it. It's like walking out of a 70-degree house into a 70-degree outside temperature. You don't notice the difference.
And then what are we going to get to once those engines fire, just out of curiosity?
Well, when those engines fire, it's 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff.
Ouch.
Ramping up to 1.9 million pounds of thrust as it ascends into vacuum, but the first stage is still burning. So stage 1 propellant load has been closed out, so RP1 load into stage 1 is over. The next major visual milestone that we are expecting here in just a minute or so is the pullback of the transporter erector. This is the large white structure that actually feeds propellant and data umbilicals into the Falcon 9 rocket. And the tanks are, Falcon 9's tanks are currently pressurizing in preparation for the retract of the strongback. It only retracts 1.5 degrees to 88.5 degrees is its pre-pullback position. And then at T-0, when the hold down clamps release and Falcon 9 lifts off, the transporter erector throws back to 45 degrees to get out of the way to protect its umbilicals from the Falcon 9 as it rises off the pad. But that is the next visual milestone. You can see some wisps of gaseous oxygen still venting away from the rocket. There's one more big vent at the T-2 minute mark that we will be waiting for. But other than that, everything continuing to go well. Falcon 9, okay? Okay, so they will recover the fairings, we are hearing. So this is a live update that's coming in right now. They will recover the fairings by pulling them out of the Atlantic. They are not going to try to catch them in the nets because of a software update that is ongoing with the software logic of how to do this type of recovery. So they're still going to parachute down, they're still going to fish them out of the Atlantic, but they're not going to be driving the boats trying to catch them.
And we can talk a little bit more about that maybe after.
Yeah, once it lifts off, we'll talk about how they can actually do that and how they can pull them out of the water and reuse them again and again, hopefully. But that's where we stand now. The transporter erector has pulled back to 88.5 degrees, its pre-launch pullback position. At this point, we are probably about 3-ish minutes away from liftoff. So, you know, I passed a sign coming in. This will be the 8th launch out of the Cape and Kennedy so far this year. So 8 in 4 months. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Between SpaceX and ULA, we have averaged 2. We've managed to average 2 a month.
And even with all of these obstacles.
So far out of here, which is awesome, which is absolutely awesome. Of course, the eventual goal with the Falcon 9 is to get to 24 Starlink flights a year, which just Starlink alone would end up being 2 flights a month with that on top of everything else. So you can see how busy this place is definitely going to get here. Now about 2 minutes away from the liftoff of Falcon 9 with 60 new Starlink satellites. This is the 7th flight of Starlink. It includes the batch of 60 test satellites in May of last year and the quote unquote 5 operational flights to get to that number 7 for today. And of course, with a liftoff today, Falcon 9 will become the most flown actively flying rocket in the US fleet, taking over from the Atlas V. Both Atlas V and Falcon 9 right now have 83 flights to their credit. This will be the 84th, and Falcon 9 will take over as the US leader. With this, also, Falcon 9 will become the 4th most flown actively flying rocket worldwide. Only the Soyuz 2, the Ariane 5, and the Proton M beat it at 102, 108, and 109, respectively. So it's got a little bit of a ways to go, but yes, in 10 years, it became the 4th most flown rocket in the world, averaging about 8 to 9 missions a year. We are 1 minute and counting from... All right. We are less than a minute away now. Falcon 9's tanks have pressurized for flight. Falcon 9 is also in startup, finishing all of the preparations that the rocket itself needs to be able to fly itself today. Now 30 seconds and counting.
Stand by.
20 seconds. 15. 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and we have a liftoff of the 7 Starlink flight from 39A at the Kennedy Space Center.
That's a great track, Chris. Nice.
Go, baby, go! Woo!
That is some serious audio.
Live look of the Falcon 9 launching out of Kennedy Space Center in Florida, taking the 7th batch of Starlink satellites to orbit. All appearing to go nominal per the calls over the loop, and visually as Falcon 9 continues to ascend, arcing out now away from its launch site. That vapor trail you're seeing totally normal as liquid-fueled engines go through a period in the atmosphere where their exhaust condenses down. Falcon 9 now through that and continuing on downrange. Hey guys, what feed are we on right now? Are we on mine or SpaceX? Both, side by side, cool. So on one side, you are looking at live views from the Falcon 9. On the other, you are looking at the NASA Spaceflight Long-Range Tracking Camera located with me down here at the press site. All right, and I have lost it in the camera.
All right, so it looks like we've lost Chris's audio here, so I'm going to take over. This is John back in the studio, and we are watching the SpaceX feed, and right there you should get BECO, that booster cutoff. MECO, they called it there. And there's the stage separation for the upper stage. Back in the studio, if you're listening to me, we have lost Chris's audio for some reason, probably internet drop on his end, but I'm here to keep on keeping on. Right there, you can see 2 cameras on the SpaceX feed right now. The upper stage camera looking up, and the looking down, and the lower stage camera looking up as they split out. On the right-hand side of the screen, that's that Merlin vacuum engine, and on the left-hand side, you can see the grid fins there. All right, so we're going to see if we get Chris back up, but let's keep on watching what happens. There is a fairing separation on the SpaceX feed. Fairing deploy, you can see the 60 Starlink satellites over there. And Chris, I'm working to get you back as well. Got some curvature of the Earth, pieces of ice and stuff like that. Let's see. Yep, we're jiggling the handle here, Chris, to see if we can get you back.
Yeah.
There you go. We should have Chris's audio back now. So Chris, take it away, man.
All right. All right, well, apologies for my drop of signal there, not sure what happened, but yes, we had a successful first stage flight. The first stage of the Falcon 9 is on its way to the drone ship. Of course, I still love you for an attempted landing and recovery. The fairings have separated and are on their way down to the Atlantic. Well, they're still coasting up, but they'll be on their way down to the Atlantic, where they will be fished out of the water by Go Mystery and Go Mischief. after they successfully splashed down. Visually, it was a gorgeous launch here from the Kennedy Space Center. Julia, you commented that this was one you could really hear, and I agree.
I could hear it. This is the first time I felt this launch. This is the first time I have watched one from the media center. I've watched them from the causeway, but I don't recall actually feeling one this much in my chest.
Yeah. And they're all different, and that's the wonderful, like, amazing thing about them, is you can see 84 Falcon 9 flights, right? And every single one ends up being different from the other one. Falcon 9 is on stage 2 at this point. Stage 2 continuing to bring the 60 Starling satellites to their initial drop-off orbit. First stage on its way to the drone ship. Fairings on their way to the Atlantic for fish out and recovery. Michael, just FYI on the background, I am not hearing any audio whatsoever in terms of a launch loop. So 5 minutes into flight now, and everything's still looking good. First stage coming back in. We are going to be standing by here in a minute or so for its entry burn into the atmosphere. One fascinating thing about the entry burn for these Starlink missions, even though it's landing 630 kilometers northeast of here, if it's nighttime and it's clear on the horizon, you can see the entry burn from that far away from here on the ground at Cape Canaveral and at Kennedy. It's absolutely amazing and gorgeous to see. So if you do ever happen to be in Florida for a nighttime Starlink launch, definitely watch for that entry burn because you can see it if it's clear on the horizon. So we should be about 6 minutes now into flight. Again, my apologies for the audio issue that we had earlier. I now cannot hear the broadcast, so Michael is relaying everything to me here. But again, we're standing by for the entry burn of the Falcon 9 rocket after what has been so far a good launch from the Kennedy Space Center. About 2 minutes of powered flight at this point remaining. Engine cutoff of the second stage expected 8 minutes 55 seconds after liftoff, and that will put the Starlinks in their elliptical deployment orbit. And this elliptical and the entry burn has started. Falcon 9's first stage entry burn has begun. This both protects the rocket thermally from some of the heating forces as it re-enters the atmosphere, also slows it down a bit as well, and aims it more precisely for its landing location, which in this case is the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. The entry burn has shut down. We have confirmation of a good entry burn as the Falcon 9 first stage continues its way to the drone ship. The fairings are passive and doing their thing at this point. We will not have video of them splashing down into the Atlantic for fish out and recovery. Okay, so stage 1 lost the signal as was expected per the callouts. What you are looking at now is the Merlin engine of stage 2, the Merlin vacuum optimized engine continuing to fire, taking those 60 Starlink satellites into orbit. It is really... All right, stage 1 is now transonic. It has dropped below the speed of sound. That is good as it continues to head toward the drone ship. It's real easy to get really fascinated and focused on these first stage landings. Oh, and I can hear that again. Whatever you guys just did in the background, I can hear it. It's really easy to focus on the landing, but remember that the mission is the second stage. It's getting those 60, and the landing burn has started. Falcon 9 is on its way, descending toward the drone ship, waiting for landing leg deployment, and waiting for second stage cutoff and orbit insertion of the Starlink satellites as well. Landing legs have deployed on the Falcon 9. And all of my audio cut out.
No!
Michael, shoot, I literally can't hear anything of what happened. This audio is amazing today.
And I don't have it up.
Audio is amazing. Well, Doss, I'm gonna throw it back over to you because I've lost every comm net that I have. Oh, I heard good orbit insertion.
I want to
But yeah, DOS, if you want to take it back over, I've lost everything to be useful on my end. It landed.
Yes!
It landed. Okay.
Hallelujah. Mama's a happy mama. Oh my God.
There we go. You shouldn't be muted. All right, now we're good. Now there's no audio. All right, sorry. We switched over as we were trying to switch between one and the other. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have a lot of different video signals being mixed up here. I always do this. It's always like, geez. But anyways, we're good now. We're good now. Thank you for the help there. Anyways, Chris G, we had a couple different technical difficulties. We lost him for a second there. We weren't able to mix him back in. Then we got him back, and I had muted myself, so y'all didn't have to listen to me. Sorry about that. Anyways, what we've got on the screen, this is actually a view from Chris's perspective still. It is an empty launch pad. We've got that strong back that's retracted over to its roughly 45-degree angle there. No rocket on the pad. That's what you like to see at T plus whatever. It's nice when you don't have a rocket on the pad. So that's what we've got there. But Chris, we're not quite sure if we've got you. Are we expecting to get Chris back or not? Y'all let me know over in the studio what our plan is. So repeat that?
Well,
All right, good deal. So stage 2 is going to continue flying. Let's flip over this way and see if we can't watch what's happening. Where is my presentation? There we go. Yeah, we still have Chris G's camera over here. This is the first time we've used this new setup that we can use to bring in Chris's G in a new sort of way. If you've noticed, we are actually at 1080p this time. In the past, our broadcasts have been 720, and so we upgraded to a new system. This is our first use of the new system that we've got the 1080 output. So you should be able to view this in 1080-30 when we're going. But that is, again, still Chris's view. It's still live because you can see birds flying over here. And we continue to see stage 2. Let me see if I can get stage 2 over here as well. That would be the presentation camera. And you should still be able to hear me there. That's correct. That looks good. So you can see stage 2 now crossing over the very northeastern part of Canada up there. It's already gone up the entire eastern coast of the United States. And then on the ship over there, stage 1 and the drone ship are both together because we saw stage 1 with its successful landing, it looks like. So that is where we are right now. We still have a little bit of time left before the Starlink satellite deploys, and we're certainly going to stay here and see if SpaceX gives us a feed of the Starlink satellite. Let me see over on this screen. On this screen, I've got Chris's camera still. Look at this American flag shot he's got set up here. Nice. Let's see if we can't really quickly grab... Nope, that is not it. Let's see if we can't grab NSFR 01. That camera right there. There's that. Hit OK. Where's it at? Aha! It helps if you actually show it. I worked that out myself. Now we can see that on this one here. So anyways... Yeah, the overlay seems to be coming and going here, Michael, on our scene. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. But anyways, we will stay here. It's just a couple minutes. You can see right here. See down here the little timer that's going across? We're getting up close on the deploy, and I'm very curious as to whether or not SpaceX is going to give us some live footage of the 60 Starlink satellites deploying out there. They're continuing to work to see if we can't get Chris G back, and we could always NSF control room, we could always pipe Chris G in via Discord on his phone if that's what we need to do. If you can hear me, that's fine. Yeah. All right, let's do that. Let's get Chris G on Discord here right quick. So we'll do this. This is our production studio, right? And then we'll come over here and we'll join into the ComNet and make sure I'm getting you. Chris G, do you hear me right now? Just 1 second. Chris G, are you there?
You hear me?
Aha, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Chris, So now we can talk in real time. You can comment and I can talk at the same time. I've got up on the screen the countdown for the Starlink deploy, and I was just telling people we're going to see if SpaceX gives us some video of the Starlink deployment. How are you doing out there? Chris, you still there?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to disconnect you.
Ah, gotcha. So...
But yes, thank you all for, and Das, thank you for taking over for the technical difficulties that we were having here. In what was a wonderfully humorous moment for me, what I heard was, and we have landing leg deployment and then nothing. And then absolutely nothing after that. So we were in great suspense here, if it had landed or not, which is, you get to see it launch, but then you don't get to see it land. You don't get to see all the cool stuff on camera.
And Chris, we're just coming up on the deployment here. It looks like the deployment timeline has gone by, but we didn't get video of it from SpaceX. So, do we have confirmation? We have confirmation over here. All right. We're seeing that SpaceX has confirmed the deployment of the satellites. Oh, here we go.
So there they go.
Yep, we've got video of the satellites, the 60 Starlink satellites deploying. And that's actually a great shot of those satellites. You can see
it always is as they like flip and bump up against each other. I mean, like, you're always taught that things in space shouldn't like connect unless you're docking or like reaching out with a robot arm, and SpaceX is just like, yeah, we'll just fling them off the top of the Falcon 9.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they sort of like twist away. They're literally they just release them and they go. You know, there's not like a separator or anything. They just let them go. They're like tension bars.
Yeah, like a deck of
right?
cards just fanning out.
Yeah.
And up they go.
What are they do? Aren't they held in with the tension rods, tension bars? What are those called?
They're held in with tension rods, and we don't see the tension rods release.
Right.
But the tension rods are actually one of the prime reasons they changed the orbit in which they deploy the Starlink. Because if you remember the first few missions, they were deploying like an hour after liftoff, and they would reignite the second stage, and they would do all these other things. And that raised the orbit to a point where it would take like 3 to 4 months for those tension rods to deorbit.
Gotcha.
But with this new elliptical orbit, which I think is somewhere around like 320 by 190 kilometers.
Right.
That 190 dips them down far enough where the increased atmospheric drag actually brings those tension rods down within a month. So much more space friendly to do it that way, which is why they changed it.
Gotcha. And I'm actually over here queuing up a replay, so if y'all hang with us, we will do a replay really quickly. It looks like the winds have picked up out there, Chris. We're looking at your camera right now.
The winds have indeed picked up since liftoff. In the 17 minutes since liftoff, yes, this is our frontal system that is approaching.
Wow. So that was sort of, they got it out of there right before these winds, because that American flag is standing almost straight out to the side, isn't it?
Yes, and it was not when we first got here. I can assure you of that. No, but remember when they hold forward by several minutes, right?
Right.
Optimization, right? When you've got a window and you want to target the center of the window for peak optimization performance of your rocket, sometimes that mismatches with, well, when is the weather in the window going to be good?
Right.
Right. And you have to decide, are we going to stick with rocket performance, or are we going to go with when the weather's better? And weather was, better. I mean, it's still not like at a point where I'd be like, oh no, ground winds. Let's be clear about that. It's not there. Because Falcon 9 can actually withstand some pretty intense ground winds of like 30 knots or something like that to get off the ground. So we're not near that. But yes, this is one of those things that you have to deal with in Florida, is sometimes you look at a window and you go, okay, well, I've got to target the opening of it because of weather.
Right.
And that's incredibly hard to do, especially on launch day, to pull it forward, but they did it.
Yeah, by 7 minutes, a lot of people are recognizing in chat that the T-minus actually moved forward a couple minutes, which is sort of weird. But just like you said, when you know that the weather's good and you have a window, you go with what you think is best, right?
One of my favorite stories from the shuttle program. This is just to make John Krause's eyes roll, because he knows I can bring anything back to a shuttle story. STS-105 Discovery, mission to the International Space Station. It was going to launch August or July of 2001 in the middle of the Florida summer afternoon. Well, what types of problems do we have in Florida in the summer in the afternoon? Thunderstorms, which you can't launch through. And they actually saw these storms building down by Lake Okeechobee earlier in the day,
met after they had started fueling Discovery for liftoff and decided we're going to eliminate 5 minutes from this countdown and go at the opening of the window instead of 5 minutes in. And for a vehicle far more complex than what we just saw launch today, that's also incredible. So it happens, but it's exceedingly rare.
Gotcha. All right, well, how are you doing, Chris? Are you ready to shut down your camera? Do we want to do more Q&A? What's the plan here?
So I am good. Let me take a quick scroll through chat just to make sure we don't have any. No, I think that's going to do it for us today. Julia, you're going to have to go back and get your cameras.
I am.
I have to go, but Julia, I'm going to actually do my spill and then hand it over to you to close us out, and then you're going to hand it back to Das when you're done.
And when y'all are done, we'll watch the replays again. So if you're sticking around, you missed the original launch, stick around and we'll watch these replays and talk through what happened just here with the Falcon 9 launch. But y'all go ahead.
There we go. So from my end, thank you so much for the thousands of you who joined us today. It's always our pleasure, Julia and myself, in terms of being out here and bringing all of this to you. Very happy and pleased that we could do it. We hope that we will be able to for the next one. May is a little packed here in Florida, even with our current pandemic situation. We have another Starlink from Pad 40. We have the mini X-37B space shuttle from the Air Force that will be launching on an Atlas V rocket in May as well. And we have Demo 2, the return of human launch capability to the United States in May. We hope to bring you all of those. Of course, we don't know what the situation will be. And as soon as we do, we will let you guys know what we are capable of providing you in terms of the missions. Do not forget, 2 days from now on Friday, we have a Progress uncrewed cargo launch up to the International Space Station from Russia and Kazakhstan as well on our manifest this week. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, like our channel, turn on notifications. We promise we only bring you videos like live streams like this or other really cool and important space stuff. And also consider a channel membership as well to help us out and help us continue to bring you all of these activities, especially as human flights return to the United States. That is going to do it for me personally. I'm going to now hand it over to Julia, but thank you everyone so much. I'm Chris Gephardt. Julia, talk about your photos.
Talk about my photos. Well, this was my first time actually seeing a rocket launch from the press site at Kennedy Space Center. So
how was it?
I hope you enjoy the tweet that I just put up for y'all. I'm looking forward to picking up my remote cameras. I put out 3 this time. There was no moisture, so I'm really hoping I get 3 shots to share with you. One more note is it looks like we have a booster coming home, and y'all don't know how excited I am about that. So hopefully I will be either bringing you another video or possibly live stream of that coming back to port. And that'll look a little bit different with Jetty Park closed, but I look forward to doing that for you. Again, just as Chris said, thank you so much for your support, y'all. Watching that video I did, I had no idea y'all were that interested. And I really want to thank you. So go ahead and we're going to throw this over to Das. And you all enjoy that replay. And I'm going to watch all of this when I get home after remote pickup.
Excellent.
There you are, Das.
All right, Chris and Julia, thank y'all so much for being out there today. And one more thing. I'm kidding. I'm not muted this time. One more thing, massive thanks to y'all for going out and with the way that the environment is these days, with what's going on with COVID-19, we appreciate y'all taking the social distancing to the next level so that you can bring this rocket launch to us. But we are clear to, y'all can disconnect from Discord, and we will see y'all later. Thank you very much again. All right, y'all, so fighting the wind noise there for sure. What we did is we actually swapped them over to a Discord call, which was not using the big main camera, which was, that would actually be using their phone. So that was Chris G's phone we were listening in there. We didn't have an extra microphone or another wind muff or anything. So as that flag got worse and worse and started to stick out straight to the side, it did get a little bit windy. So appreciate y'all hanging in there. Again, we're rolling this all together ourselves. Right, this is us. I'm in my studio up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Chris G is using a unit called a LiveView Solo. Where's my extra solo? I have stacks of solos around here. But Chris G is using a unit called a LiveView Solo. Massive thanks to LiveView for hooking us up with these things so that we can bring this launch coverage to you. But this unit is what we're using to get Chris's video. And we always run into the trick of, okay, well, is the audio going to come off the unit? Is the audio going to come off a Discord? How do we talk in real time? It always is a bit of a trick. So sometimes I'm here in the studio talking to somebody else, and so I mute myself so that, and then sometimes I don't unmute myself because I'm wearing a lot of hats here. So I appreciate y'all hanging out. I'm going to do this really quick. We do have the replay. So let me grab this replay, and I can do that by doing that. So here's the replay, right? And we'll go full screen on this, and we'll watch what's happening. But before we do this, I want to say this. I want to say thank you very much for everybody who has been supporting both streams today. We're live on Twitch over on my channel, and we're on the NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel here. Both places, there's been so much support. We're able to do this because of your support. This is where we go telethon mode, right? But let me read some super chats and stuff like that came over on the NSF YouTube. Joe Smith, thanks for the $3 there. We've got Joachim Voldseth, 33 Knox. Not sure what a knock is, but we appreciate him. Marley Tryon, welcome to Padrat. So these are YouTube memberships over at NASA Spaceflight. New thing for this launch is the membership program. We've got Ryan Spooner, welcome to Padrat. We've got Grigory Butieko. Wow, I probably butchered that, but appreciate the 149. I guess that's rubles. We've got Robert Carter, 199. Very nice show. Please do this for every launch. Robert, as long as y'all keep showing up, we will keep doing this. We got John White joining as a pad rat. We've got Rian McCorkindale with some Canadian dollars there. Then Joe Smith again with another $5. We appreciate all the support. Again, if you're watching on YouTube right now, the YouTube membership thing is a new thing, right? This is a new, it's a new way that you can support the NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel. NASA Spaceflight is a group of, I don't even know, 20, 25 people, photographers, journalists, reporters, writers, videographers. I'm the live stream guy who sometimes remembers to unmute his mic or whatever. This big group of people, and sometimes we are able to actually send people to launches like this. The equipment, the bandwidth, all the things that we use to bring this coverage to you. When you support the channel, it lets us keep doing that. If you're a fan of Starship down at Boca Chica, you get videos from Mary, Boca Chica gal down there. All that is because of y'all's support. So whichever way you're supporting on YouTube, memberships, follows, like and subscribe, whatever people say, right? We're able to bring you this sort of coverage with our own colorful and sometimes not muted commentary over on YouTube and then back on my channel as well. Y'all know me. I've been playing Kerbal Space Program for 5 years now. I run the Kerbal Space Academy on Twitch, and that is my thing. But I don't ever want anybody on my channel who sees me to be like, oh, Das abandoned us. No, now he found cooler friends, and now he just hangs out with that NASA Spaceflight. That's not it at all. Both places, we love to get the content everywhere we can, and that is what we're doing. Beamer57 doing great work. Thank you very much for that one. And then over on my channel, Mad Hump and everybody, thank you all for the subs and resubs and stuff too. So everybody who's wondering what's going on, the launch has already occurred, and I did promise a replay. So let's go over here and watch this replay real quick, right? They'll be full screen since people don't like listening to me, apparently. That's fine. Here's the satellites. This is the replay of what just happened a little bit earlier. So right there, T-minus 5 seconds. You see all the gauges come up. And you see the Rainbirds start to go. There's the ignition of the engines, that strong back retraction, and liftoff of the Falcon 9 carrying those. Wow, that camera was not happy. Did you see that rocket go by it? Liftoff of the Falcon 9 carrying those 60 Starlink satellites right now. The big plume of water down at the bottom, that's actually a bunch of steam that boils off. It's not dirt or anything usually, it's a bunch of steam. And 9 Merlin engines pushing this thing up into orbit. It's not a happy camera. That camera was not happy. That camera got hit hard as that rocket went by. But there, T plus 36 seconds. You can see it's already going 600 miles per hour. Again, this is a replay of what happened earlier. 750. Look at how quickly it's accelerating. It's already 5 kilometers up. And this camera here, looks like the camera is actually getting hit by some wind as it shakes. Tries to track this. I think Chris G did a great job of tracking this thing today. This, of course, is the official SpaceX feed. Tyler Anderson, thanks for the $5 there. Again, appreciate you. So the thing that I always like to point out, right? Let's bring that back up so we have our own overlay on. As the rocket gets higher, it gets into thinner and thinner atmosphere, and you'll actually see the plume expand. And what does that mean? That just means that the actual engine, the fire coming out the backs of the engine starts to spread out, and that's because there's less atmosphere up there to push it together. You can see it really great in this shot. You see how that fire is sort of spreading out, this plume expansion? That is the atmosphere getting thinner and thinner. You can actually see that the atmosphere is less dense up at this altitude. This is about 24 kilometers in altitude right now. And that's just one of the greatest things, especially on the Falcon 9 Merlin engines. And you can see each one of those distinct flame plumes coming out the back of the rocket. You can see those fires sort of in a circle around the back of the rocket. Then that one central core as well, right? So as we continue on, there's another great shot of the plume expansion. T+2 minutes right now. Again, this is a replay. This launch has already gone. We already had both confirmation of a successful deployment of the Starlink satellites and a successful confirmation of landing of the first stage on the drone ship out there in the Atlantic Ocean. Both of those things are in the past at this point. We're rolling back the clock and seeing what we see. But we will continue forward. Let's jump forward a little bit here. We should have, yeah, right here. When you see the camera cut to the side-by-side, that's when you know you're about to come up to stage sep. There was MECO, main engine cutoff. There's the stage separation. 2 cameras on the screen, one on the upper stage looking back, one on the lower stage looking up. You can actually see that upper stage ignite and shoot some flames actually into the top of the lower stage. That triangle tripod sort of thing is actually the top of the part that lands on the drone ship, right? Looks like they had some exposure issues on the one side there, but they got it fixed up. Left-hand side of the screen, again, that's the booster. That is the first stage of Falcon 9 coming back down to land on the drone ship. You can actually see the coast of the United States there in the background. This is the ocean, and that's the coast back there. And the other side, those are those 60 Starlink satellites stacked up inside that fairing. There was payload fairing SEP. So that is that PLF, that payload fairing, separating to expose the satellites, getting rid of a bunch of mass. You don't want to be carrying that fairing once you don't need it for aerodynamic assistance anymore, right? So, and it looks like there's a lot of reports from people saying that they could see the plume from the UK or from Canada. I know some people are posting up some social media links. Also, there's some imagery from Goes East I'll bring up in a second. Let me see what we can do there as well. So, anyways, yeah, there we go. There's the stage ship from Goes East. Okay, that's kind of crazy. There is no sound on the SpaceX video right now. That's important. If you were over in the UK and Belgium, Glasgow, wherever you were, north of France, tell me in chat, YouTube or Twitch, tell me in chat if you were able to see this thing go over. I am reading both chats right now and trying to make sure I know what's going on. And back at the control center as well, control, if anything's going on I need to know, let me know. I'm just talking for now. We're rewatching this. Again, I'm back here in the studio. I'm Das. I am or Das, John Galloway, whichever one. If you watch my Twitch stream, you know me as Das. My media name that it says on my press credentials is John Galloway, because you can't use made-up names when they do background checks or whatever. Oh, look at this. Definitely saw it in the UK, Slovakia, visible in Scotland, all over the UK. Didn't see it, anything from London, saw it in the Netherlands. Bam, there we go, 20 miles from you and didn't see it. You didn't see it, NASA Spaceflight Actual. Didn't see it in South Wales. Was that Polish? I apologize, I can't read some of the chat that's happening there because I grew up in a cornfield and they did not teach me, I'm going to guess Polish. I don't know what language that is. I'd love to participate with your chat, but I can't read it. Didn't see it from Manchester, Poland here, saw it in Netherlands. You saw it in London, so like scattered clouds in London maybe. Fairing debris on the left camera. They're continuing on the camera here in the background, but it's really amazing. The trajectory for this went up the eastern seaboard of the United States, and then it would have done its inclination. It would have started to come back down over Europe. So we'll see if we can't get a graphic of that or something here. Wow, there are a ton of people still talking. Saw it in Birmingham, UK. Where can we see the live map? I don't know that we currently... Control room, do we have a live map somewhere? Is there anything? Because SpaceX has shut down their feed. But is there any place that we could get a live map of this? Lots of Yorkshire saying they didn't see it. So many Yorkshire in chat. I'm reading from the control room here. In both chats, how many people are hailing from Yorkshire? Is it Yorkshire? Yorkshire? I don't know which one it is. At least I'm not muted. How many people are hailing from Yorkshire over in the UK right now? Yorkshire. Yorkshire. You're not a hobbit. You're not in Middle Earth. It's Yorkshire. Helsby, Cheshire. You are Joanne Newby. You're watching from Yorkshire. Chichester, Worcester. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that. Now y'all are just putting weird names into chat. Again, SpaceX, this is the replay. This is the replay coming up on the entry burn here. So love the little timer at the bottom, and we're coming up on the entry burn. You can see those grid fins doing work. They're starting to move around. They're guiding that rocket. Right there's the entry burn. That's cool. This video right here is cool because they're using the flames of the rocket as their heat shield. They're actually firing up the engines and not only doing a bit of a course correction, but the fact that the engines are on is actually helping protect the rest of the Falcon 9 first stage from the energy of reentry, the heating of reentry. Let's see here. Muskie over at Twitch says, me and my girlfriend saw the rocket above Poland. You lost it somewhere around Orion's belt. You know, I bet you dollars the donuts we're gonna get some photographers out there who might have caught this with a long exposure or something, like a streak across the side. You've seen the ISS, you've seen star trails, and I bet you somewhere on social media we're gonna find somebody over in Europe that has a shot of this thing. So there's so much chat going on. There's tons of chat scrolling by on YouTube. I know that I'm not catching every single thing, but again, that was that successful re-entry burn, and next thing coming up is going to be the landing burn. I'll stay on this because I can weather operator it, right? I can point at this and be like, oh no, light winds or whatever. That's what I can do, so we'll leave this up over here. Over on Twitch, Dap Dude got your picture with your telelens, no long exposure. You got a picture of it, Dap Dude, with your camera with like a telephoto lens or something? Alexandria Alliance has definitely saw it. One really bright light traveling so fast. You've watched Starlink nearly every night this week. Can you explain what stage 1 and stage 2 are? Absolutely, Andrea. I can Alexandria actually. I can absolutely do that. I don't know. Do we still have that graphic from Brady? Somebody in the control room, can we grab that graphic from Brady real quick? Because Brady has that the great picture. If we could bring that up, that shows the reuse. In fact, I'll Google it. I mean, I'm not completely worthless myself. Twitter.com. The favoritist would be Brady's YouTube. The fave. There we go. And did he just tweet that out? I'm trying. Yeah, I got it. Look, I'm in charge here, y'all. Sometimes that's also my fault when I don't unmute my mic, but whatever. So what's the first and second stage when we're talking about Falcon 9? That's actually a really great question, and what we can do here is show which parts of Falcon 9 were actually reused. I'm loading up my telestrator real quick, so let's get it so we can draw on the screen for you. Loading up. Okay, you on the right monitor this time? All right, so on a Falcon 9, you've got multiple different pieces, right? This green part down here, that's the first stage. So what is that, like 70% of the rocket or something? I don't know what it is by mass or length or anything, but that is the first stage of the Falcon 9. And everything right here, that's what you actually see landing on the drone ship. So if you get an RTLS, it comes back, it lands on the land at Cape Canaveral at LZ-1. On the drone ship, that is the big skyscraper sort of building that you see landing on that drone ship. And I'll bring up a picture of that real quick as well. Then we have the second stage of the Falcon 9. In this part right here that says first flight, that's the second stage, all right? SpaceX reuses the first stage. They land those on the drone ships. They land those on the landing pad, LZ-1, back at RTLS mode. But they do not reuse the second stage. The second stage gets going too fast. It's too high in the atmosphere. Elon's actually looked at reusing those, and I think, again, I'm not the reporter. I'm just the guy who forgets to unmute himself. I think that Elon said that they were no longer going to pursue reuse of the second stage and instead focus on other projects like Starship, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, sometimes I'm wrong. But I believe that they are not pursuing any reuse of the second stage there. And then the top of the rocket, this is sort of tricky. there are two parts on the top of the rocket, right? And I'll draw it for you. There's the stack of Starlink satellites that's inside this payload fairing, right? So if you looked at it, it looks like a bunch of long pizza boxes stacked on top of each other inside of this payload fairing, right? So I'm exaggerating here, right? But that's the payload fairing on the outside. The payload fairing is actually reused. This payload fairing previous mission was on Amos 17, and then the Starlink satellites, of course, those are not reused. Those are satellites that were built new for the mission so that they could actually launch another set of 60 Starlink sats up into orbit. So in terms of Falcon 9, that's sort of what we're looking at. Let me see if I can't find, and there's so many questions over here. I'm happy to answer questions as long as I can, up to a certain amount, because I do have a hard stop. But let me see, did SpaceX tweet anything specifically? Let's go see if we got a picture on the drone ship or something, SpaceX. Yeah, here we go. This is the video of it landing on the drone ship. But when the video cleans up, this video here, this is actually the first stage that's sitting on that drone ship. And there's definitely some better imagery of that. Wow, there's like 3 pixels on that picture. But that's the first stage. That's the smallest picture ever. Let's make that bigger. This is, when we say first stage, this is what we're talking about, the part that's reused, the part that comes back and lands. And then if we skip back over to the actual SpaceX video, right? See if I can't get you some imagery of that really quickly. Here. Okay, so this is the engine on the second stage. When you see this camera, there's actually 2 cameras, one on either side. When you see this view, this is the second stage continuing to push those Starlink satellites up into orbit. So first stage, big thing that lands on the drone ship. Second stage, this camera right here that you see, keep on going. Live map for you. Cordy up. I'm going to have to look at that and see. I'm going to have to see what that is and see if I can use that one. I see that somebody's linked me to a map, but I don't know that I have permission to use that. I'll look real quick. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not going to bring that up on the screen, unfortunately. Anything else? Are people still back in the control room? Michael Baylor, are you still there? I know Christie's packing up to drive away from the Cape. But I don't know if I'm just sort of hanging out. We're not tracking things in the question queue or anything like that anymore. I don't see any super chats or anything like that. I see people still reporting in from both places where they saw it from. How many satellites in total? If you're talking about Donna Charles, I'll try to do some real-time YouTube stuff here. How many satellites in total have been launched? What are we up to now? Were we at 360? They're launched in increments of 60. So it's going to be a multiple of 60, but was this 360 or was this 420? How many Starlink satellites have we launched? If anybody in the control net can verify that one for me. I think this puts them at 420, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'll wait till somebody verifies that. But I think they're over 400. It's in increments of 60. 420 a day, 420, I believe. Gotcha. So scrolling through chat, again, I don't mind doing a little bit more Q&A. Where can you track the satellites? So there are actually some great resources for tracking the satellites. That's for David Giraldo Cortez. Any of your sort of apps that do rocket stage tracking or ISS tracking, a lot of those apps will have Starlink in them. Heavens Above and that sort of stuff, right? Not sponsored by Heavens Above. But I know that there are also multiple websites. Let me see if this one is still active. James Darpinian. Starlink track. See a Satellite Tonight is one that I use. So I believe, yeah. I'm pretty sure, hey, I'm going to put this link in chat so we can show it on stream. But I am pretty sure this is a website that I've used to great effect. Right here, this link that is in both chats now. Let me put that there as well. And from there, you can, and I'm K-Space Academy, by the way. That link that K-Space Academy just posted is cool. That's me. I posted that. But this will allow you to actually put in your location. Oh, I can't see them in the next couple of days. You can give it access to look at your location, etc., etc. It'll show you the path. It'll show you like an AR sort of view of Google Earth, showing you where to look in the sky at what time and stuff. But I don't have any viewing opportunities in the next 5 days, unfortunately. I guess I could change my location or something. Yeah, geez. Okay, so right now, okay. So the control room is giving me information about how many satellites are in orbit, and it says there are 419 on orbit right now, including the Tintins, the original tests. So there are 419 in orbit right now, including the Tintins. Again, I would love to answer some of those questions in chat, but I can't read a lot of the chat. I don't speak. I guess that's Polish or something. I apologize. Let me scroll through. When is it coming back over the UK for the second flyover? Mr. Man, I will try this, all right? I will try this for you. Yorkshire, UK. I'm just going to put in this as the address. Oh, location not found. What? How does this website not know where Yorkshire, UK is? Did I not spell that correctly? I'm just trying to search for a... yeah, I guess apparently you have to have a specific address to put into this tool, and I'm not putting a specific address in. I guess I could just go to maps.google.com and get an address. Let's do a live tutorial on how this works. Maps.google.com. We'll see. Try York. Try Leeds. I mean, I could try it real quick. This is York, UK. Does that come up? No, it doesn't know where York, UK is. Huh, York, UK. Normally, I just type in my home address, and I've been around long enough to know that I probably shouldn't type in my home address on the live stream in front of 5,000 people. Just not do that, maybe. They frown on that. I just need an address of like a cathedral or something. Clifford's Tower in York. Just give me an address. Tower Street. Yes. This looks like a real thing, right? So does it know this address? No, it doesn't know that address either. I'm just falling to pieces here. For some reason, I cannot bring up... Let's try directions. This is like... That's not an address, though. I just need an address of something. Because it doesn't look like it's doing zip codes or anything, and I don't know of any actual addresses that I can use here. Oh, the wheels are falling off the wagon, aren't they? Here's a different... I mean, none of these... They're not actually like addresses. Do y'all think this only works for the United States or something? Use Chris B's home address. I don't know. If anybody is... I'll let somebody else work on that for now. See if we can come up with something that we can type into there to get those things done. But I'll continue scrolling through chat. Try New York City. All right, I'll try New York City. Everybody's giving me some ideas here. New York City when we don't have a home address. Nope. New York City, New York. It doesn't look like it likes any of these addresses. I'll just come up with an address in New York City maybe. Not prepared to do a tutorial on this in real time. Staten Island, New York. That's good. I'm just gonna pick like a hotel in New York City or something. There we go. There's some apartments in New York City. Does this have an actual looking address on it? Yes. Okay, please work. Please work. Now, I don't know if something is wrong with the website right now. Somebody give me another, maybe a different website, because none of the addresses that I'm putting into the website are actually coming up as a location address. We will, maybe there's some sort of technical problem with that website that I've used in the past. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is. It looks like everybody who's trying to run it are not able to get any information on it. So anyways, what's the official name of this launch? This launch is Starlink 7, isn't it? Like the proper name of this, it's Starlink Launch 7, according to what SpaceX has had us call it. That's what we got from SpaceX, right? There's some confusion on weather forecasts versus the official SpaceX stuff, but we typically go with what the official SpaceX thing is. Getting nothing there. Yeah, I see all sorts of people trying to make that site work. So I'm not sure why that's not working. But anyways, try London. Yeah, there's all sorts. Please, people putting addresses into chat now. I'll try one more thing and see if this comes up. Nope, even the Chicago address doesn't work. So not sure what's going on with that website. I don't think you can put in longitude, latitude either. So total flight of Starlink takes. So the orbital period, Thomas. What you're looking for there is how long does it take a Starlink satellite to make an orbit, and the orbital period of the Starlink satellites is about 90 minutes. Roughly, things in low Earth orbit are around plus or minus 90 minutes, depending on their exactly how high their altitude is. I'm just going to scroll through and see if there's any other questions, or if we're sort of going to go ahead and close out Starlink 7 here. Starlink Launch 7. You got it working on your location. So, Paul, see, you got it working based on a location, like your browser giving the location or something, right? Try the White House. There's some app store things. I see a lot of people. There's a lot of different ways to track Starlinks, and I apologize that the one that I brought up did not work. I hadn't used that in a while. I'm just scrolling through. I see all the addresses and stuff, people looking. There's a question from Mapoko. Mapoko, how does the booster protect itself from re-entry heat? Mapoko, that's actually a great question. If we go back over this way, see if I can get this bottom camera back online, right? And the booster protects itself from re-entry heat with this right here. Let's see if I can get that burn. Where's the re-entry burn? Coming up right after this. All right. So here is how the booster protects itself from re-entry heat. Do you see this? That is the, what is it, the supersonic retropropulsion? It's actually using the flames from the booster as a sort of heat shield to protect the rest of the rocket and create an aerodynamic profile as it re-enters to keep the heat off the rest of the rocket, basically. So, really great question. It is the exhaust plume that they use for that sort of a heat shield, really. I see there are literally hundreds of people. There are literally hundreds of people asking the next time that they can see it at their location, and I have to apologize. I cannot go through chat and tell everyone how they can see it from their own homes. As much as I would love to, I cannot show you that. But again, there's tons of different app store things. There's I don't think. Does anybody know if Flight Club has gotten a pass predictor online yet? We'll just have to get Declan to come on and ask about how we can use Flight Club. Next launch, photography, simulations, payload calculator, loading missions. You know something, we'd have to ask Declan if Flight Club has predictions yet. I don't know that it does. But I can certainly ping the creator of Flight Club and see if there's not a good thing. What we need is a good friend who has an app or something that predicts the passes, and then we could just use that one. I'm surprised that other one didn't work, though. Use app, find Starlink with a live map. I'm on computers right now, so I'm going to try to download an app and show you it on my phone or whatever. What time can the landings of the fairings be seen? Dirk, there was a question there about landing the fairings. We did hear today that there was going to be no attempt to catch the fairings, so they were not planning on trying to catch those fairings. They were upgrading the software, I think was the information that I got on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no fairing attempt today. They were planning on fishing the fairings out of the ocean. So the drone ship, or not the drone ships, the fast ships that actually have the big fairing catcher nets on top, those were not going to attempt to catch today due to something with software, was my understanding. And so when SpaceX releases that video, that is when we'll see that. We did not get a live feed of that today. So, and yeah, we probably have another 7 minutes or so here. NASA spaceflight back in the studio. We can answer a couple more questions, but I do also have to take off as well. Will satellites follow the same orbit as the rocket that just went past? So, Julian, that's a great question, and the answer to that one's yes. If you saw the second stage go over, the satellites would follow a similar trajectory. Well, because the second stage was carrying the satellites, right? The satellites would follow the same sort of trajectory as that second stage. However, it doesn't mean that it's going to appear in your night sky at the same space or time every night, right? These are not what we call synchronous satellites. A Starlink satellite is not in a synchronous orbit, which just means that it orbits the Earth the same amount of time that it takes the Earth to rotate, like one orbit per day. So you get like a geostationary setup where you have a communication satellite that's always hovering in the same spot in the sky, or like a sun-synchronous orbit where a satellite is coming over an area at the same time that the sun is in a specific position. Starlinks are not synchronous satellites. They are communication satellites, but they live in low Earth orbit, right? And so what that means is every day the Starlinks are going to pass or not pass you at different times, and you're not going to be able to see them every day either. If I can draw on the screen really quickly for y'all, let's go back over to our presentation again. All right, I'll use this as the background. You know what the best background would be? This one right here, because y'all can see if I draw on this. So consider the Earth, right? This is the globe of the Earth. I can't draw a circle. North Pole, South Pole, Earth rotates, right? It's sort of basic math here. Physics, planetary science, I'm not sure which one it is. But the Starlink satellites are actually in a high inclination. When they launch out of Cape Canaveral, they went up the eastern coast, right? They went up this way, and they're going to end up in an orbit that sort of looks like this, right? So, well, not like that, because I draw terribly. They would never hire me to do this for football or American football or whatever. But the satellites are going to stay in this inclined orbit, which literally just means that the orbit is tilted relative to the Earth's equator, is a quick way to explain it. So sometimes the orbits of the satellites will be very high in the northern hemisphere. Like if you're on the ground up here in the UK or whatever, you may see them go over. But at the same time, if you're on the ground down here in Africa, you're not going to be able to see those satellites at all, right? And then other times, the UK may be over here on the globe. And so the satellites, at that point in the rotation, the satellites are passing the southern hemisphere. So you might see them in Africa, but you wouldn't see them in the UK at that time, right? So because the Earth continues to rotate like this, and the satellites continue to orbit like this, you always have sort of this mix-up of where the satellites are relative to the equator. Are they up in the upper hemisphere? Are they down low? And then how the Earth is rotated. What piece of the dirt of the Earth is underneath the orbit of the satellites at any given time? And on top of that, you have to wait until viewing conditions are just right. So if it's daytime, if the sun is over here, this is the sun, right? If the sun is over here, and you're in the UK right here, and the sun is shining down in the sky, you're not going to see the satellites go over. The sun is way brighter than the satellites are, right? So you won't see the Starlinks during the day, just like you don't see the stars during the day and other things like that, right? You need the sun to be in a very specific position to shine on the satellites, but not shine on you. So if I delete this whole thing, imagine you're sitting on the ground here, right? And this is you in the UK. All right, I'm going to draw you, and you're in the UK, okay? You need the sun to be in such a position over here, such that it's shining, but it's not hitting you. It's dark where you are, but the satellites that are flying over, let me toss out a Starlink sat right quick. That's a Starlink sat. You need the sun to be shining on the satellite, but not shining on you. In that way, you'll actually get some of that reflected sunlight. They've got that big solar panel that sticks off one side. And if you're lucky, that sunlight will reflect off the solar panel and bounce down into the darkness where it's nighttime where you are. And then you can see them sort of either passing over or sometimes flaring. If you get the sun angle just right, you can actually see the sun directly reflected off the solar panel. Think of a mirror and shining a flashlight at a mirror. And if you shine the flashlight at the mirror just right, you can actually shine that flashlight right in your eyes. So if you see a super bright Starlink satellite, it's called flaring. Iridium used to do it. If you see a Starlink satellite go really bright and then fade out again, that's because the sun directly reflected off that solar panel down to you in darkness. So that is sort of the vagaries and the trickeries of watching Starlink. What we really need to do y'all think this would be useful if we had a like tutorial on the NASA Spaceflight channel on how to view Starlink? Maybe that would be a useful sort of content. I mean, we do a bunch of live footage of Starship down at Boca Chica and live launch coverage and all that sort of stuff. You know, planes flying like the Virgin Orbit planes and that sort of stuff. But I don't know that that's the sort of I don't know if that's the sort of content y'all would want. Do y'all want an explainer on how you could actually view Starlink? Anyways, with a football slip-up, or was it done on purpose? Haha. Anyways, we are starting to coming up on the end of this here. KSPJT, how you doing over there? You're on your way out to see if you can see Starlink in 5 minutes. Nice, KSPJT. But we are sort of coming to the end. That sounds like a great idea. Yes, show us how to view Starlink. When will the satellites deploy? The satellites have already deployed. Successful deployment quite a while ago, actually. So I know during the explanations there, I haven't been explaining everything, or I haven't been getting every single question. But let's get Calvin and Hobbes off my desktop. Switch back over this way. I'm going to scroll through one more time. This is live right now. Yes, I am live. I am Das. If you're watching on Twitch, you know me as Das. If you're on YouTube, you know me as John Galloway. That's my media name or whatever. It's fine. That cat's out of the coop. Or whatever. Long ago. Just scrolling up, seeing if I missed any other questions. Chris Lehman says, we watched the rocket in Suffolk, UK. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Luckily, it passed towards the sunset, a black cloud behind it. Looked awesome, made a great photo. Nice, Chris. Excellent. Parts of UK, depending on cloud cover, did see the rocket go over. Can you please start the video of the satellites being deployed again? Angela, I can grab that one real quick. Let me pop back over to the official feed, wherever that went. Here we go. And see if I can't get you video of the Starlink satellites deploying. Right here, I think it was. Pop back over here, title card off. So this is actually the video of the Starlink satellites deploying. And you can see there's not like a rocket thruster that flies them away or anything like that. They literally just have these tension rods that disconnect. Can't really see it there. And that is 60 pizza box stacked up Starlink satellites that are being deployed from the top. This already happened. This is a replay, right? But the right way to say it would be that were deployed from the top of this 7th launch of the SpaceX Starlink constellation. Sumo Deluxe, Que Paso, how are you doing today? The launch has already occurred. Dimitri Moore, the launch has already occurred. So you can scroll back on our channel here. As soon as we shut this down, you'll be able to see that. How does Part 1 land so precisely from that height? Math and programming and aerospace engineering. The first stage knows where it is because the first stage knows where it isn't. Things like that, right? So to go into exactly how that works, I actually can't explain all the vagaries of, oh, it talks to the ground with this and that and that and the other. But I do know that we have a lot of technology in the world about landing rocket-propelled things in very specific locations. Putting a rocket on a dime on the other side of the planet is nothing new. We've had the ability to do that for a very long time, but SpaceX made it so that rockets are actually be able to be reused as opposed to being for not so nice purposes like military purposes, right? For a long time, there's been technology. Human beings have the ability to, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, put rockets just on pinpoint locations anywhere on the world. And SpaceX has sort of developed their own, and they use it for peaceful purposes so they can reuse these rockets, right? Any other questions? Julian, you're so welcome on that. You're so welcome on that. Yes, the tiger. No, it's Calvin and Hobbes on my desktop background. That's Calvin and Hobbes. It's not tiger or anything. Anyways, y'all. Check the skies. People in Yorkshire, even Wakefield, they're flying over the next 5 minutes. So some people are saying that if you're, I don't know, I haven't verified this myself because I'm not there. But are they actually passing over Yorkshire right now? Some people saying maybe they've looked at an app or something. Again, I hate to say that out loud without verifying it. But anyways, there's 419 or something like that in space right now, just around 420. They launch in increments of 60. Just scrolling through. Talk about the satellites colliding and stuff. Can you explain last flight of the first stage reentry, what the alcohol did to the reentry stage? Crazy Horse, I know the tweet you're talking about. I know that Elon Musk was talking something about isopropyl alcohol or some sort of cleaning chemical that caused a problem previously. I don't really have any more information on that. I can't tell you, oh, well, it was stuck in a valve or something, and then the valve opened, and I don't have that information, right? So we did see from Elon Musk, I believe it was a reply somewhere, that they had some sort of issue with a cleaning solution, but I have not seen any official information like a press release or something from SpaceX saying, here is the cause of this. And y'all know me, I don't want to try and speculate on things that I don't know. A lot of people will guess, or they'll be like, oh yeah, my buddy who works at SpaceX told me, but that's not my bag, right? So I do not know, Crazy Horse, specifically what happened there. It's a clear sky. So KSPJT, what, do you mind saying the city that you are in? And I can repeat that. KSPJT is a long time. I've known that person forever. But you say in 5 minutes, you're supposed to have an 82-degree overhead pass at 9:35 p.m. your local time. But if you don't mind me just saying very generally the city or something like that. I know you're in the UK, if you're still hearing me here. But anyways, it sounds like if you're in the UK, there's multiple people sort of confirming that they may be able to see a pass coming up here. Again, I'm not simulating that myself, so your mileage may vary. Did you hear about the crowd in space? No atmosphere. Moving right along. So, am I a physicist? No, I'm a Twitch streamer. All right. I don't think we missed anything else there. Yeah, Chesterfield, UK. Some people are saying Chesterfield, Hertfordshire, pass at 9:35. A lot of people talking about this going over. Pat, you're talking about Manchester, 9:36. A lot of people saying that they are going over. So that is in the UK. But folks, I am up on the end of the time that I have. As much as I would love to sit here and hang out with you forever, you know a lot, and I'm from London. Do those things go together? I don't know. But I am up on the end of the time that I can spend on the broadcast here today. We appreciate everybody joining us again here for this launch. Starlink Launch 7, SpaceX's official title on it. We appreciate everybody joining us. Chris G down at the Cape. Julia, both of them braving the social distancing down at Cape Canaveral to bring us that live footage right there from the press site at Cape Canaveral. Massive thanks to them. Props, hearts, whatever you do, wherever you are, they definitely deserve some thanks. If you want to follow along with what was going on, you can check them out on Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and put these links in chat for everybody. That's Julia's Twitter right there. Like that. Let's get Chris G as well. And did she tag? That's Chris B. Let's just go grab Chris G. Oh, there! Look here. This is actually Julia and Chris G at the Cape, all PPE'd up and standing by for that launch. I didn't see that question earlier, but Chris G, did he get tagged in that tweet? I don't know that I saw that one. You know something? I know what his Twitter handle is. We should just do Chris G. There you go. So Chris G's Twitter handle, you can follow along with him here. There is Chris G right there. Of course, the official handle for NASA spaceflight. If we go over here and you just do NASA spaceflight on Twitter, this is the official channel for following along with NASA spaceflight related things. We're going to put those in there as well. And then finally, people are saying, yeah, right now they're flying over the UK. So if you're in the UK, can step out, maybe look to the sky, see if you see something weird. Finally, last but not muted at least, we've got K-Space Academy. That's me. That is what I do right here. K-Space Academy on Twitter. There is a link in Twitter if anybody wants to, for some reason, want to see what I'm up to. But appreciate everybody. Speaking of what I'm up to, we have a cool thing coming up this weekend with some Hubble 30th anniversary stuff. So if you toss me a follow on Twitter there, you'll get more information on hanging out with astronaut Mike Massimino and astronaut Charlie Bolden coming up this weekend, talking about Hubble 30th. That's going to be on my Twitter if you find it. So anyways, that comes to the end of our stream for today. Again, massive thanks for everybody. Thank you for all the support. Don't think I missed any super chats or anything like that. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us and we just watched this rocket launch. Again, hope everybody's staying safe, and that's going to be NASA spaceflight for Starlink Launch 7. Appreciate you.
Chamber pressure looks good. Starling